Sage myself before I can win this song.
Thank you. All right, we're going to get started. Call the Planning Commission meeting of November 14th, 2024 to order. Our first item of business is to approve the minutes from the October 24 meeting. Ask for a motion and a second. A motion and a second. Are there any questions, comments, corrections that need to be made to the minutes before we vote? I wasn't in the meeting, so will that can we carry?
Yeah, it's a majority of who is here.
Hearing that there's no corrections or additions, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll go to our open forum for any action items. The policy for public comment is attached to the minutes, or attached to the agenda that is in the back of the room. So I ask if there's anybody, do like the supervisors, is there anybody on this side of the room that wants to speak? If you do, just identify yourself and tell us where you live. How about on this side? Okay, we have no requests. We have a sketch plan from R Horton. So I ask you folks to show us your sketch plan. We all have copies, so if you just angle it, so as best you can, so the public can see it.
Sure. Good evening. Dave Fox from Roadway. We have the applicant R Horton, Jeff Strauss with R Horton, and Keith Marshall from Nate Newell. This property was the subject of a prior zoning board application, which had previously proposed about 320 or so lots. We've scrapped that plan, so what you have in front of you is a by right plan by zoning, and we anticipate very minimal design waivers. The property is located in the MUR mixed-use zoning district. It is 164 single-family dwelling units. Part of this project will include off-site traffic improvements to installing a traffic light. We're working on securing easements and the rights to do so. We understand as a all the other things. So that's something we hope is considered favorably. Keith, would you mind walking through the particulars of the plan, access points, and anything that's areas we're avoiding and why?
Sure. So the plan has two access points, one on Route 322, one on Kupol Road. This plan is a little bit different from what we see before. There's some property that's no longer part of the plan that was on the original one. So there's just those two access points. There's a large sensitive area to the southwest that we're avoiding, obviously, with this plan. The open space will provide open space throughout the property, and as we said, there's 164 single-family lots. There'll be stormwater management throughout to comply with the stormwater management ordinances. And really, it's very similar road network as to what you've seen before. It's just been tweaked a little bit for the single-family lot.
Like that, and one thing that we have secured recently is we work with the Brook County Municipal Authority. We've picked up and doing some of the test on their sanitary line off Kupol Road, and there's plenty of capacity in that line.
Can you speak up?
Can you speak up?
I Basically what I'm saying is we have sanitary capacity for the site. We've conducted a flow test with the local authority. I know that sewer's been a larger issue on this particular project, so that has all been resolved with the authority at this point.
They did a sewage test.
What are you looking for comments from us, or?
Yeah, we're
giving a
giving-
presentation?
It's very open presentation. We just wanted to make it great. After speaking with Warren, he recommended that I bring it in front of the board since the plan has significantly changed since previous iterations have been done. As he said, the major issue is we are no longer looking to build on the piece that's adjacent, so we're not ever bring a lot of twins. That is very, from what I understand, a very highly environmental sensitive area. It's got pristine woodlands, a lot of wetlands on there. So we have now eliminated that from the project, and we pretty much just come forward with a straight by right plan.
So are you required to provide any recreation facilities as part of this plan?
So not active recreation, there will be passive recreation throughout the plan.
And one thing we've said from the very beginning on this project is the racetrack stays. The community wants the racetrack, the supervisors want the racetrack. We also agree that the racetrack should stay. You weren't here before, so maybe somebody forgot to convey that to you, but that's got to stay.
Well, no, we've made that decision that the racetrack is going to be removed from the project. And there's nothing, I'll not be made in here to, maybe don't be able to maintain that.
Yeah, and that's the seller's property, and they made a decision to convey the property to R Horton.
We also said, don't request any waivers, the last time you were here. That's extremely disappointing that that's the position that you're taking when the whole community, believes that racetrack, that's been a part of this community for a long time. And it's unfortunate that that's the way you feel like you need to do business.
Unfortunately, it comes in, there's, I don't have my attorney here today, the legal issues, ownership, maintenance, who's going to take care of it. the
We
homeowners
still can't
association.
hear you, can you please?
I'm
like-
sorry, basically that's why we have our solicitor here this evening, unfortunately.
He wasn't here when this was discussed in the past either.
Oh, I understand, that. What I'm trying to say is that.
The ownership was discussed, that the township would take that in consideration for park and rec areas, and I'm just disappointed.
I'm sorry, I mean, like I said, I wasn't a party to the previous negotiations and conversations that were made with the township. When, from a legal standpoint, ownership, et cetera, became a liability, plus also the quality of life. I understand that
Only if you own it.
I understand, but we also have to understand from the standpoint of the new neighbors moving into this community. It is loud, it's a active area, we would be selling homes in that area, we currently have stormwater basement in that particular area.
I'm not sure we care about that, to be honest with you.
Well, I understand that, but it's one of those things we have to be able to comply with. You're asking for no waivers or minimal waiver requests, those are things that we have to, we have to balance those two things together, unfortunately.
Yeah, the message was clear last time you guys were here. I don't know if you were here, so was it another engineering firm? And, yeah, it was clear, no waivers.
Understood.
We don't approve waivers, you're aware of that. We won't recommend to the supervisors to approve any waivers.
Understood. We will comply with that.
It would be based on the number of units, so if they're at 164, I think there's a category from 100 to 150, with the number of recreational facilities, including pot lots, basketball courts,
Right, so where are you gonna put that on?
maybe tennis courts, and then the numbers increase, I think, for every 50 units thereafter.
Yes, you are correct, and those are items that will be added to the plan. This is basically just for the layout of the project right now. Just want to get it.
Where do you see them being located?
Yeah, right.
Is all the storm areas and all the wetlands, where do you see those being located?
Well, there's solar consideration, since obviously we're not going to be getting any waivers or any variances, we will have to accommodate that.
So this plan is going to change from what we see.
Yes.
There are several areas I think we can look at doing recreation areas. There's several open space areas that around the property that could accommodate those.
Not really.
Well,
There's one area.
That's some sidewalk.
yeah, that's things that have to figure out as they go.
You gotta figure it out.
Message loud, there are no waivers.
And the racetrack stays. And you can work out with the supervisors on what the ownership mechanism is.
I'm not gonna wait for that, the racetrack is, getting moved on the plan. We will not be waiting, we will not be going away from that, so.
Well, then you're gonna be here a long time.
Well, we're not bringing our fire rate, but no waiting, so, as long as we satisfy the town treasurer here, we won't be here very long.
Good.
Any other comments?
Where's the
The traffic light at Chestnut Tree?
Correct, that's the, we are actually in active negotiations. The person, I'm not sure of the township right next door, not the bike, where's the township right next door?
West Haven?
West Haven. There's a light industrial facility going in there. We are getting prepared for them to do a full application. They've actually obtained all the easements for the design has already been made for the HOP.
Okay.
They're in advanced discussions with PennDOT at this point, and we're doing that application.
Just disappointed. Just disappointed because the indication when your folks were here the last time was that you understood that that's what the demand was, not demand, but that's what the recommendation was, and that seemed to be something that your predecessors thought was okay, and they agreed to that. And there was a lot more open space along 23, or 322.
Unfortunately, I can't speak to that. I was a party to those negotiations or discussions.
And you don't care to keep up, you don't care to honor what maybe somebody in your organization previously agreed to?
I don't think they actually agreed to it. There was never a formal approval or anything. There was discussion, we looked at the plan. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. That was on a 320 unit plan, so you reduce the density effectively by half.
Yeah, because you don't have that adjacent property. That's the biggest reason why you reduced your numbers.
We elected to not take that property. That was an election we made because, as we were told by numerous people within the township that are professionals, that was going to be an uphill fight because it is a rather, from my person that I believe had testified previously at one of your zoning meetings, I believe, claimed it as one of the most pristine wilderness city it has ever seen. And we basically were moving out from the standpoint, I was going to fight that environmental battle when it comes to that. The risk reward just wasn't there. Plus also, that piece will require a pump station since basically it's a lower piece, so it requires a sanitary pump station. So number one, the environmental issues were overwhelming. Second of all, the site costs and the other considerations outweigh us pursuing that piece of land.
I assume the streets are going to be private.
Correct.
To be honest with the dedication.
Correct.
Anything else? Anything you need to add, Jen?
No, I don't think so. I just want clarification on that traffic light. I assume that's where it was, but I wanted to make sure. And just so I got your names right. What was your last name?
It's Strauss, S-T-R-A-U-S-S.
Okay, got it. And Marshall? Yeah, okay. All right, I don't need anything else. Do you guys have anything else to add?
Well, actually, we'll worry about this, talk about the stoplight. There are actually other improvements that are going to be done to 322. It's basically minimal widening and mostly striping at the entrance to our subdivision and also at the Google Road interchange with the interchange.
Well, that's not a gift, that's part of your HOA.
Oh, I agree. I'm just putting those out.
Okay. There's nothing else? Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Excuse me. I didn't hear what you were saying. You were saying that you're taking out the racetrack?
Correct.
Okay.
You know, it's,
You have a nice night.
Go away. You don't want to change. This isn't over.
Okay, our next action item is a zoning hearing relief. This is a request to allow a driveway to be constructed in flood hazard area.
Basically, if you want to introduce, for the planning commission, we saw this as a sketch plan for formal zoning review a couple months back. Proposes self-storage facilities on Park Road. There was a number of variances and I believe a special exception that they would need. They have now formally put in the zoning hearing application for said relief. So I'll let Jason introduce it, and planning commission's role is to take a position of support, against, or no position on each of the variance requests.
Did they have a copy of the latest plan?
The one you submitted, the zoning hearing application? Yeah, they should.
Yeah, you have it.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for your time. We went back and tried to improve some of the feedback that we heard from you last time. Most notably, looking at the plan, the orientation of the storage units are now in a north-south direction and more of an east-west direction. We feel that would improve the view from Park Road. Rather than looking at the long side of these buildings, you're looking at the ends of the building. The property does fall down gradient from Park Road towards the south there. Another aspect, there's now no dead ends proposed. Everything has like a loop system. You can also see on the plan we modeled a ladder fire truck that can maneuver easily around the site. Drive aisles, majority of drive aisles between the buildings are 40 feet wide, and at the north end between the outdoor storage hatch area and the northernmost building is 30 feet. We also had a nationally recognized self-storage expert provides a consultation to Amos Kaufman. We'll be providing more information to the zoning hearing board as exhibits and testimony, but some highlights of the feedback he gave. He concluded there is a obvious need in the market for self-storage in this community. Some stats here, 72% of self-storage customers surprisingly are in single-family detached homes. There are 23% of self-storage customers are in apartments and condos. So the abundance of single-family detached homes in the community would help that market. He also told us traditionally 75 to 80% of self-storage customers come from 3 to 5 miles from the self-storage facility, and a national average of 11.3% of households utilize one or more self-storage units. That reinforces Amos's thoughts that he wants to pursue this. He thinks it will be successful and will be utilized. So obviously, we did make an application to the zoning hearing board, as Jennifer mentioned.
You're asking for 6 variances.
Yes, would you like me to go?
Yeah, for the benefit of the public, I would appreciate that.
The first item of relief is a use variance to allow self-storage use in the ag district at this location. The second second item of relief has to do with lot coverage. We're proposing 16.28% coverage, where in the ag district we only allow 5%. There's some hydric soils on the premises, which triggers the community identified floodplain. It's not a physical floodplain where there's floodwaters. It's a different definition. And the soil type is called Cokesbury, that is hydric in nature. This triggers that variances are needed for any proposed buildings in the Cokesbury soil type, and also a special exception for any driveways in that soil type. The majority of the area we're proposing to develop is in that soil type. So it's not like we can avoid that soil type, but we do feel that it can be built in a safe and adequate way. And it's fourth on the list, fifth on the list. In the specific land use standards of your zoning ordinance, it says self-storage has to front on a collector or arterial classification road, which Park Road is not. That would be a variance. And lastly, with the technology that's available in the self-storage industry, owners can and employees can monitor and see what's happening at the facility. For that reason, Mr. Kaufman is not proposing an on-site manager to reside there or to be there at all times. Amos Kaufman will be telling the zoning hearing board, and he apologizes he wasn't here tonight. He couldn't find a caretaker for his ailing wife this evening. He has a change in lifestyle, and he has to be home almost all the time, caring for his wife. This was his idea of some real estate he owned, and this could be a source of income for a long time for him. And that's the driving force behind him, trying to get this approved through the township. Any questions on the board?
Any comments from the PC regarding the modified design or the variances that are requested?
Well, I think that's a lot of variances to be asking for in the first place. I mean, six of a lot. But this, I think the last time you were here, we talked about, like, this really isn't, you're gonna be throwing these big, huge buildings in field. That's what this is. Park Road is very narrow. So, I mean, who knows what, I believe the last time that you were here, we talked about what would be stored in here. And, I mean, this is a lot for this space, and especially in this area. This is not an agricultural type use, and that's what that land is.
Yeah,
I think that it's just too, I mean, the buildings are huge.
I just don't think the use belongs in our district.
Amos Kaufman did take a position, we talked about potential contractors dropping things off in the morning. He is in a position to prohibit contractor use. So it'll be limited to residential customers and maybe people that work from home, small business, or people's hobbies. But there wouldn't be anything in the units as far as construction equipment, anything with fuel.
You don't know that though, because number one, there's no one monitoring this.
Well,
So you don't know what they're putting in here. And I can tell you right now, people do put gasoline and other stuff in storage units even though they're not supposed to. So,
If the township wanted to enforce it, check if the legal basis will be in there in the records and testimony. If the zoning hearing board approves it, it can be corrected. I understand what you're saying, that no one's really watching most of the time, but it could be rectified if someone chose to.
The last time this was in front of us, we thought it was a big ask, and honestly, I still think it's a big ask for this to go into the ag area. A lot of waivers.
specifically for this to be off of.
Well, that's what you're asking for.
I know, but I'm just saying that it's not.
So we have three positions we can take. A motion to support, a motion not to support, and a motion to take no positions. And if we, depending on what the recommendation is on number one, the rest of them become no position. Because if one isn't successful, the rest of them don't. So I guess I'll ask for a motion. The first item would be, the request is from section 27.802.f to allow a driveway to be constructed in flood hazard. That's what their request is. The first item is, from a variance standpoint, is a motion to support, not support, or take no action on the relief requested from section 27.107.2a to allow the use of self-storage units in the ag district. So,
I'm just,
we're asking for a motion.
I'm not in favor of it.
So we have a motion to not support the variance request. Do we have a second?
A second.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor of recommending to the zoning hearing board not to support relief from section 27.107.2a, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Then we can take the balance of them together, or we can do them individually, whatever y'all want to do.
We can take them together as far as I'm concerned.
So it's the same request, motion to support, not support, or take no position on variance request 2, 3, 4, and 5, relief from section 27.103.6, 27.802E, 27.104.A1, and 27.104.A5. So we need a motion for recommendation to,
I'll make a motion not to support.
second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion and the second not support, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Our next action item is conditional use, a request for conditional use of a property located on Walnut Road, 1400 Walnut Road.
Good evening. I am Chris Daly with Howe Engineering. I'm here tonight on behalf of the property owner and applicant, Lewis Spring. This is a 45-acre parcel located at the intersection of Route 100 and Walnut Road. Portion of the property is in Hunter Borough. The intent of this application is for craft school buses to lease a portion of the property. They right now are storing school buses just north of Walnut Road on the property. They're storing about 30 school buses. Their lease runs up to the end of the year. So they approached Mr. Frame to lease a portion of his property to construct a gravel driveway and gravel parking area to store those school buses. It's essentially a relocation of what's already there now, and bringing it down to this property. Parking area is going to be large enough to store about 30 school buses and 36 vehicles for the drivers, their personal vehicles. This use is not specifically defined in the ordinance. However, there's a provision in there under conditional use that allows a use of a similar nature to other uses permitted in the district to be allowed by conditional use, and that's what we are requesting as part of this approval. The driveway is going to be coming on Route 10, so it's a state road. We are going to be doing a traffic study, which we are in the process of doing now. I will be submitting HOP plans to PennDOT for a permit from them. The disturbance will be over an acre, so we'll be pursuing an MPS permit from the Conservation District and DEP. This is a high-quality watershed, which we're aware of. There is a stream that runs through the eastern portion of the property, north to south here. We do show the required 150-foot buffer. We aren't disturbing any of it as part of this application. Stormwater management will be located just south of the gravel parking area here. It's going to be an above-ground basin. We're anticipating that it's going to be the managed release, so it's just aren't suitable for infiltration. So tonight we're here seeking a recommendation to proceed to the Board of Supervisors to move through the conditional use process.
What's this property that you had a plan a couple months ago, that they're gonna have like
Yeah.
shopping and everything?
Yeah.
So is this gonna be part of that? Or is this something completely separate?
This is completely separate, but there is a larger scope for this property, but we're not proposing that at this time. The second location.
You said for 30 school buses and about 36 personal vehicles? And just, I believe Bob Tucker is on Zoom.
Is he? Yeah,
Yes.
He said he's going to, and the property owner also, I believe, is on the spring.
Okay, when I checked it before the meeting, there was a Kevin and then one labeled resident, so
Okay.
not sure.
Is there any concerns about maintenance of the gravel parking lot, like snow, ice, that type of thing? With the buses and,
We haven't really gotten that far yet in terms of the maintenance end, but things are, they'll end up just plowing it, move the buses as needed to allow the areas they have to, kind of keep cleaning off the surface slightly, that way we don't tear up the gravel.
you said it will be gravel permanently, or are there plans to?
No, the plans are to keep it as gravel.
Why's it back so far?
To kind of plan ahead for the future development of the property, kind of want to just cut the land as far as we can. We also want to allow, so we kind of pushed it to the north to allow a future drive to come through here. If it's ever needed to cross the stream to get to the other side. Again, that's not proposed as part of this application, just put it on the roof for it.
So when and if you come forward with something else in the future, who's going to retain ownership of this? I mean, currently I know who owns it, the current landowner, but if you come in with something else, will this stay with the current owner, or it will?
Yeah, the whole property's going to stay with the current owner, however, a portion of it will be leased by Grant Buses.
No, I understand that. If I'm looking down the road, like if you come in with, say, something similar to what we saw before, the sketch we saw before, will this have to be subdivided off, separate parcel?
No.
Okay.
Well, let me back up. I don't want to speak ahead, I don't know what the plan is yet. I don't believe so, but I want to keep it open.
I'm not sure it matters, I just was curious. parking area is gonna be gravel, what's portion of it's gonna be paved? I imagine PennDOT's gonna want you to come in at least 20 feet.
Correct,
Because
yeah.
there's buses, it might be more.
You're right, the majority of it will be gravel, it'll all be gravel except for the portion within the PennDOT roadway. That will have to be paved.
Are the buses going to be moved from Kearns over to here, Kearns on property?
Is that the property that's just north of?
Yeah, where they're located right now, will they still be located in both locations? Or will they-
No, they'll be completely relocated to this location.
Oh, there is.
Is there lighting in the parking lot?
We are proposing security lighting for, yes.
And why are you not going to pave the whole thing? Like, how do you plow then, if it's all stone?
Well, you just keep it laying off the ground level, a few inches, that way it won't tear up the gravel.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't affect stormwater at all. If it's stone, it's considered paved.
I believe so, that's how I'm doing the design, that way if they were ever to decide to pave it in the future, to
That's
seamless.
our stormwater ordinance requires stone surfaces to be considered impervious for design purposes.
Jen, I mean, Mike did this review, but it doesn't appear that there's any issues. other
I
than
don't think
getting
there's other-
Permits that they're gonna be.
Right, you would need to get the necessary permits, some landscaping, requirements. Mike did have a comment in there about lighting, which they indicated would be provided. They do need the NPDS permit for the amount of disturbance, and PennDOT will control the access. But beyond that, I don't think Mike had,
Doesn't look like it in the review.
yeah, too much in there. How many trips per day would you say? Like, do the buses leave in the morning for their first run, and then, I'm in Boyertown School District, so we have elementary runs, middle school runs, and high school runs. But once they go out, then they're out till the end of all those morning runs. Do you know how fast, like how many ins and outs those buses would be doing per day?
I do not, we have a traffic engineer that is working on this. I'd have to ask him, I'm sure he has an answer, but.
Hello, good evening. I don't know if you can hear me. My name is Bob Tucker, attorney for the applicant.
We can hear you, Bob.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I just want to piggyback on what Chris said. We will have our traffic engineer have a report, and he will testify at the conditional use here to address your zone officer's comment number 6 here, the review letter.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments? So what they ask is of us is if we support them moving on to a conditional use hearing with the board of supervisors. I believe that's what the ask is for us.
Right, it would be for you guys to take position, and because the Board of Supervisors will be the one hearing this, not the zoning hearing board that we do the variances, if you have any conditions that you think the board should consider imposing, you can include those in your motion for whatever position you take.
They're already there and operating, so has there been any really issues with if I'm getting out now, it's just going to be moved down, shifted down the road a little bit.
I'm not aware of any complaints that have come into the township about it.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I think there's definitely a need for a place to park the buses, and that one is a pretty good location. So I don't have any opposition to it. Yeah. I mean, I do think maybe buffering it, landscaping, so it's not just kind of sitting there.
So you have a field to the south, and it'll just be the residents to the, like northeast, east.
Correct.
just one.
Okay.
Try not to block the view, others coming in and out.
Right, not put them within the site triangles, but, you know, they would just possibly do that, but the residents may be, you know, more concerned for it.
Am I reading this correctly? Like the northeast corner is 10 feet lower than the adjacent property? Yes. Hard to see those numbers, but it looks like they're increasing as I'm not sure you're going to be able to get much screening right there. It's pretty tight, right pretty steep too. I don't know what kind of slope it is.
Could be a 3-1.
Anything else? So then I'd ask that there would be a motion to either support, not support, or take no position as it relates to the recommendations for a conditional, move on to conditional use of supervisor.
I'll make a recommendation to support.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? All in favor of the support, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
And the final item of business this evening is something that we discussed last evening at the supervisors meeting. The property owner of 3766 Horseshoe Pike is requesting a possible amendment to a conditionally approved plan. Mr. McIntyre.
This is the plan approved, I just wasn't following it. And I got the plan again.
Hang on one second, just so everybody's settled and they can hear you in the back. Just as an introduction, so everybody hears, 3766 Horseshoe Pike previously received a conditional plan approval to have a twin dwelling unit and then a proposed contractor shop to the rear of that. This is the parcel right next to the pharmacy and car wash off of Horseshoe Pike. So Mr. McIntyre is looking potentially to ask for some additional waivers or relief beyond anything that was granted for his original plan as he's looked to move from the plan process into construction. So, Mr. McIntyre, if you wanted to identify what things you're looking at changing.
Certainly. The first thing is that the paving that was proposed is 24 foot wide for a limited amount of use. I don't know what Park Road is, but I think it's considerably less than that. I did Star Road subdivision behind this, maybe my daughter Scarlett, and I think it was 24 foot wide. But that's for a whole bunch of houses. So what I'd like to do is reduce this down to 16 foot wide. There are some comments from the engineering company saying that we have a minimum of 20 foot entrance from 322, to eliminate the curbs and come back, paving that part back, just neck it down 16 feet, and do the improvements for the twins, which would replace the existing house there. Twins are less footprint than the existing house right now. Build the twins and do those site improvements, put the financial security up when I apply for the permit, building permit. And at some point in the future, we'll apply for a building permit for that building in the back, the commercial building. And at that point, like that would trigger the financial security for the improvements there. But the improvements I'd like would be to waive the sidewalk, which I don't think they're going to use. And if the township at some point requires that, but it might cost, I would put that in.
I would like the paving in front of the Twins, which is now, I think, 22 feet by 40 something, to go 18 by 18, which is what the engineering firm recommended at a minimum. I would agree with that. The space would be then 9 by 18, each 2 spots per house. And I think that was about it. So no bold curb on the entrance, the sidewalk, reduce it to 16 feet instead of 24 feet. Not requesting a smaller amount of stormwater, we'll keep the stormwater the same. We believe that's important. But I would just request that we're not going to pave the entire area. It just seems like it's a huge amount of paving. It would be a lot more green space.
Was there relief on this property?
There was zoning relief for the uses, to allow the twin dwelling unit. Right at the very top of that plan, Melissa identifies the zoning relief. Okay, get me back, give me a second, and I'll read you. The plan previously obtained zoning relief for the permitted use,
So it's zone commercial, correct?
it's zoned mixed-use commercial.
Okay.
So it received a zoning variance to allow the twin dwelling unit. I believe it was one for they listed area bulk regulations. Trying to see what that one was for.
Which one? The fourth one?
Most of the wetlands.
The area bulk regulations.
No, I don't know.
There was zoning relief for the driveway to go through the flood hazard, community identified flood hazard area based upon soils, improvements in the wetland margin.
So,
Just to note, any changes to the width of that driveway entrance would have to get PennDOT approval. Also, and Mr. McIntyre indicated 16-foot wide. Mike Reiner from our office had reviewed it. His recommendation was 20-foot wide. He would not necessarily be opposed to elimination of the curbing there. The plan previously had sidewalk proposed from the driveway entrance to the west, going towards the pharmacy property. Mr. McIntyre is asking for that to be eliminated. That is a zoning requirement. So, what Mr. McIntyre indicated and was one potential solution was to have that noted on the plan as a deferral, that in the future, if the township determines that that sidewalk is warranted, then the landowner would put that sidewalk in at that time.
so I remember when this came through, I think we didn't recommend, but we talked about tying into the car wash area and using that access there. Just saved you a lot of money if you would have done that. Now you're coming back, you didn't want to do that. Now you're coming back and you want to reduce it from what's on the plan now. And I see where your line is drawn, where you want to stop the paving. But what about the infrastructure that's behind it that has to come into that area? You know, you're not wanting to put in the storm lines, or how are you going to extend the water to where you're shown?
Gary, these are good questions. I'm not proposing no paving. I'm saying I'd like to phase the paving for the first part for the twins and provide that financial security. And when I apply for a building permit for the construction shop in the back, and at that point, I would provide the security to pave that area as well. I'm not looking for any relief on stormwater, but the stormwater that's for the 24-foot wide road, I'm still going to do the same amount of stormwater. As far as the other Vernon Skolsky's next door, he was not interested in doing a shared driveway through there.
I understand you're not going to change the stormwater, but it's like, how are you going to collect it? You're going to have to install the inlet. There's a pipe that goes into the wetlands from, I can't see if that in reading.
So that's the stormwater pipe from the rear basin that we installed for storage. The stormwater for this part, the twins, is a rain garden right in the front of the area.
But there's a pipe going into that from, an area that, a paved area that you don't want to pave. Right now.
I see that. We would probably make some field adjustment. We're just looking for some kind of relief. We would give an engineered plan that would show that there was some kind of collector pipe there that would go to feed that front. We could adequately,
They would have to show, so if Vernon wants to phase the plan, there's two ways to do phased plans. We can, such as the Village Green Development, where they came in with a preliminary plan for all three phases, and then did a final phase 1 plan, a final phase 2 plan, and a final phase 3 plan. Each time they had to come back for approval of those phase plans. Chestnut Ridge, because of timing issues and not wanting to lose their vested rights in the original preliminary plan approval, they depicted all three phases on the singular plan. And there was notes on those plans deferring the posting of security for phases 2 and 3. And there were certain conditions that had to be met. So in this case, I believe what Mr. McIntyre would like to do is record the plan as a whole, but he would have notes delineating phase 1 and then phase 2 in terms of, if you want to be able to get building permits for phase 2 until he posts the security, things like that. When you do have a phase plan, they are required to show that each phase can stand on its own. So he'll have to show phase 1 in terms of just doing the twin dwellings. It'll have to show where he's going to cut off the paving, and that the stormwater can be collected and the drainage to that site can be collected, whether it's in that storm sewer pipe that runs along the contractor shop, if it's a swale or something else in the phase 1 condition. So he'll have to show a plan to rectify, the modifications in phase 1.
What's the timing like between phase 1 and phase 2, and why are you choosing to do it in 2 phases?
my checkbook won't allow me to do two things from doing so I thought, and I very well in a second. I think that there's a need for the twins, which I had to do right away, and have that done as soon as the plan is approved. I'll have the existing house down and modular twins I would have done maybe 4 to 6 weeks out or longer. And then at some point, if there was a demand for the contractor shop, that might be as much as a year away. It wouldn't be more than a year.
My own opinion is, I'm not necessarily opposed to the paving, or to the phasing, but I think your paving's gotta go further back, because your sewer is coming in for the duplexes, that duplex building, out of what you wanna put in your first phase, and I don't know how you can do an improvement. I guess there'd be a way to figure that out, but you're gonna bring your sewer in where you put where that dog box, manhole's located. That's gonna be outside of your phasing.
It would be.
So, I think that's where your phasing line needs to be.
So this phasing was something that I did. I just threw a line there, but I was on there. It was not done by the engineer.
Because I think all your improvements for whatever your phase is should be included in that phase.
Phase 1. Agreed.
The other question I have is, you have the 16-foot dimension across that driveway in front of 3770. The 16 feet is circled, then you have zoning 9 by 18. Are you looking for relief there?
No, I was going to defer to the engineer, and he said it has to be 18 by 18. So I agreed with everything that the engineer said.
So it's two spots?
Yeah, it has to
Okay.
be 2 spots.
To meet the parking requirement.
Correct. So that was Mike's comment, that those driveway areas would need to be expanded to 9 by 18.
I'm not opposed to the deferral on the sidewalk, because it's a sidewalk to nowhere. I'm not sure I agree with taking the curbing away from the entrance, because what will happen is you put, my opinion is, when the contractor shop is built and, maybe some larger trucks come in there, if they cut the corner, they're gonna be going off the edge of the paving, and it may break the paving, it may end up disturbing the grass and it's muddy and stuff. It's not a lot of curb. I think personally the curb should stay. And I know it's roll curb in our township. As far as the 16-foot wide, you probably don't have a lot of trips per day, so your conflicts may not be too bad, but I think Mike was recommending 20 feet.
Correct.
So I could go along with what Mike was suggesting, but I do think your phasing has to be beyond where your improvements are. If the supervisors and the rest of the planning commission recommends such, but, so they're my comments.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think 16 feet is wide enough for commercial vehicles.
Do we know how wide Park Road is? That, running into the widest. I lived on Angletown Road, which was 14 foot wide, and we never had a problem for the 20 years I lived there. So,
I just think those, especially if you're talking about leasing to like a tree company or something, I mean, you could have dump trucks, I mean, those vehicles are quite wide, and if you get somebody pulling out, okay, and waiting to pull out on the 322, and somebody wanting to pull in, and if there's not enough room to get around that truck, I think you could have a problem, safety concern with somebody sitting on 322 waiting for them to pull in or out. I don't think 16 feet is wide enough for commercial vehicles.
I understand, Erin, and certainly safety is a huge concern. Can we defer that to another, it seems like we're moving far enough that I can get the engineer, do an engineer plan and come back and have a look at that. And we can come back and take a look at 16 or 18 or 20 feet. 20 feet is an awful lot of paving there. When we pave just the entrance coming back to where the twins are, and then that get down to 16. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, I just think in that area where they will be passing, you could have your people living in your twins passing a commercial vehicle, they have to be able to pass each other on that section. Maybe not going back farther, you wouldn't need, but I think 20 feet is necessary. You know, it's expected 24 right now, right? So,
Yeah, it was 24, and again, I wasn't looking at the plan that was being developed. We had
We're talking 33 yards of blacktop, and, yeah, what's that gonna cost?
I don't know, but, I mean, you're saying from 16 to
16 to 20. Unless Aaron, you're saying go to 24.
no, I think 20 is okay due to the minimal volume, but I don't think you should design a plan that leaves room for, I mean, it's a big, I mean, that's going to be permanent, so if it's not designed big enough.
Right, and if you're,
You have people I assume are going to be renting these townhomes, correct?
That's correct.
So those are going to be the people that are going to have the problems. I think we want to alleviate that from the start so that you're not dealing with problems down the road.
So you're thinking 20 feet back to where the twins are?
I think so, yeah. But yeah. I mean, if you have a big, long
yeah, I
dump
think
truck and a
from-
trailer
right,
sitting there
from the
waiting to pull out.
engineering standpoint, 16 is really too narrow depending on what type of vehicle, you have to get in and out and be trying to turn off the Horseshoe Pike onto theirs. And if somebody's coming out, you don't want to have to sit on Horseshoe Pike there waiting to get in. So the 20-foot wide gives you two 10-foot lanes, which should allow most, vehicles and traffic to, get in or out. So from our standpoint, I think we could be supportive of the 20 feet wide, which is kind of like a split in the middle between the 24 that it was originally and the 16 that's requested.
So if, let me see if I can kind of clarify this. Are we in agreement that the phasing should include the sanitary sewer? Well, first of all, are we
How
okay?
would you do it if it wasn't?
Well, let me ask the
You have
first
to.
question. Are we okay with supporting this to be phased? Not, you know, how Jen described it, report the whole thing, but have notes to say that it would be phased. Then my next question is, are we okay with the phasing, including just getting beyond the sanitary, which would include the doghouse manhole, and the sanitary line that goes in to serve the 2 units, which the water can also goes from there. I know the water goes in front, but you could bring the water to the back of that phase.
So I think from a phasing standpoint, they'll have to show like a phase 1 exhibit as part of the plan and show what is required to be installed as part of phase 1. So if they'll have to show water in the sanitary line, they'll have to show how the water's going to be conveyed from the rear of the property to the front and what they're going to put in for us to see where it stands alone. And then depending on their grading in there, will determine whether they do need to put an actual driveway back as far as the sanitary, or if they're able to install it and still leave it in a vegetative condition back there. But I think that'll be up to his consultant to prepare a plan, you know, that shows that the phase 1 can stand on its own if he never installs that contractor shop.
So I think what Jen's saying is just where this inlet is, the inlet could be installed, but it wouldn't have to, maybe not be paved. Maybe that ends up being grass.
Yeah.
As long as it grades and the water gets to where.
That'll be for his engineer to show, and then we'll review it to make sure that whatever they're showing for phase 1, if we pretend, you know, he has goals of doing phase 2, maybe he never does. You know, we have to make sure that what goes in phase 1 is functional, and meets the requirements on its own.
So then, the next couple of items, how do we feel about sidewalks? He's recommending a deferral. I know on the plan that says that he doesn't have to put it in now, but if the township and something happens to the east, that he would be required to install.
I thought he was talking about from going west versus town.
It was across the frontage,
Under the original plan, he was required to put the sidewalk from the driveway entrance towards the pharmacy.
Right.
The little piece going the other way, he was not required
Yeah, he didn't have.
to install. But it is a zoning requirement, so in lieu of going to the zoning hearing board for a variance to eliminate that sidewalk requirement, would the PC and ultimately the board be agreeable to a deferral note on the plans, basically making the applicant responsible for that sidewalk if and when the township determines that it is necessary?
Is the township going to hold escrow for that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what if the ownership changes hands? What happens?
That would be a solicitor determination if she feels an escrow is required.
Well, if it's a zoning thing and you're deferring it, it should be a requirement.
So sidewalk deferral will
Otherwise, it goes
be
to the
acceptable
zoning board.
if a financial security is held.
Yeah, because otherwise, you've now granted him, he may never do it.
Right, then it's a battle for the township to fight at whatever point that is to get that owner or future owner.
I think there should
to
be
do it.
escrow for it.
Okay,
either installed or escrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, what, the plans that we have that were sent to us today, what he's requesting, it doesn't show the sidewalk.
Yeah, because we only said you have to do it towards town, because it doesn't make sense to do it.
Do it the other way.
There's nothing
right, okay, so that's the face part, that's the sidewalk part. What
About-
about the driveway?
How about the driveway width and the curb? Yes.
Yeah, we're just
One basic,
summarizing.
all right.
Driveway could be reduced to 20 feet, what about need for curbing?
I feel like Gary's right, I mean, if they go off the side, they're gonna, next thing you know, it's gonna be mud, tracking mud out onto 322.
But it could be that it could be installed when the contractor's building is done, because that's really when the bigger trucks are coming in. So, are we okay if it's part of phase two? I just think it
So,
should be put in when the
the
bigger
only,
trucks are coming in.
the only,
Well, PennDOT's gonna have the final say on it, right?
right, so you really want to be able to put your entrance in and get done with PennDOT. So if you try to defer the curb, then at some point when you go to do this, you're gonna have to then apply to PennDOT again if your permit's expired. So it may be best to install the curbing at the same time.
Did you say PennDOT was okay with not having the curb? Oh, you did, okay.
I didn't.
That I think, yeah, I think your point is well made, that we'll just do it now.
Okay, so if you leave, the driveway could be reduced to 20 foot wide, but curbing should be installed. Okay.
You good? Is there anything else that we need to address as part of the recommendation?
I think that covered all your requests, right, Vernon?
I believe that is-
Did we miss anything?
No, I think that's, I didn't hear the notes from my car. I think that's it, Jim.
Okay.
So let me get an engineer plan together and then get it to the township for your formal review.
Do you want me to send a follow-up email to Bryn of the summary of this?
Yes.
Okay.
Bryn Schaefer.
Yeah, I'll get that in the next couple days.
So these are our recommendations. What if the supervisors have a different opinion about it?
He said last night, defer to whatever Harry says.
Not what Gary said. It's the whole, it's what,
Yeah,
He did say the piece of it.
I think they had some initial discussions at the meeting last night. We wanted to come back to the planning commission. So I think based upon this feedback, Bryn could prepare, an alternative plan to be reviewed, and come back before the PC. So,
you didn't get everything you wanted, but you got a little bit.
We're getting close, we just have to be economically viable. I'm prepared to walk away from $60,000 I've already spent, rather than lose $300,000.
That's a decision you have to make.
It's expensive, I understand things cost a lot of money. I think there's a real need for the twins, and there is a need for the commercial shop. So let me get with my engineer and see what he thinks, and see what the other engineers think.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
We have no other business. We'll move to open forum. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to comment on any other matter? Yes.
Valerie Schultz, 165 Caitlin Court. Just curious, for the R Horton plan, what was the percentage of open space that they were proposing?
I'm not sure they even had that on there.
Valerie, what's your address again?
165 Caitlin Court.
They, 22.3% is what they have shown for park and recreation.
But
That may not be.
right, they don't divide it up and tell us what percentage of that is included in those, like, sensitive areas. Like, they don't provide us enough detail to.
Because I just went back and looked through the saldo amendments. I thought that we removed that requirement for a certain percentage to be maintained for open space. Is that correct?
I'll have to go back and reread those amendments to see what the final language was. They did not put this sketch plan in for a formal zoning review by our office. They just put it in for discussion. So when they do go and put in either a formal sketch plan for zoning review and/or submit a preliminary plan, then we would go through the full ordinance to determine where it is or isn't in compliance.
Because I'm just wondering if we could request a fee in lieu of, if they're insisting on getting rid of the track, could we ask for a fee in lieu of that could maybe help the track to relocate somewhere? I don't know.
Well, we do have that option. The supervisors can ask for a feet below.
And was the EMS station, that wasn't included in their plan anymore?
Did you look at what was in the packet, or wasn't there?
I didn't see.
No, there was nothing shown on what we were getting.
Yeah, there's nothing for an
And-
EMS station.
And there's no, I don't see any area where it could be put. I don't know that wooded area to the west of where the track is, they're showing that as open space, but I'm not sure if that works or not.
And he mentioned about considering Chestnut Tree and for a light and cupola for widening and widening on 322. We also got to keep in mind, none of the builders have addressed Burdell, that intersection at 322 and Burdell. I mean, we need a turning lane, something needs to happen around there. I mean, there was just a fatality not that long ago again there. That has been an issue for decades. And now, if we're putting, the trailer parks across the street from where R Horton is, and then the Maple Inn, that whole area between Chestnut Tree up to Burdell is gonna be absolutely insane.
You take forever to make a left out of there.
Yeah, it's really dangerous. Cars are flying up there, and then, the traffic is gonna get so much worse.
You haven't seen a traffic study yet, have you, with the changes?
No.
So it may be.
That sketch
that
plan,
intersection-
one-page sketch plan is all we received. We haven't seen anything on the traffic light you talked about or any updated traffic impact study at this point. So those will all be reviewed when they come in for formal.
You have say in the intersections that they're a study. They'll come, so
Yeah, they'll have to
that
comply.
that can be one you
When
can
the
identify.
updated saldo was done, the traffic study section was revised to provide much more detailed comments, and they'll have to comply with those.
Yeah, and I think the township is going to have to stay on them because the quality of their homes and the attitude towards the community is clear. They're coming in adversarial and they just want to make money and unfortunately some poor homeowners with really shoddy houses. So I just hope that it's something that everyone keeps in mind. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is there anyone left online? Let's see. Anyone online that has any comments? Oh, that's right, you can comment.
Some of them can, but I think if somebody like Bob Tucker was on the line,
Yeah, how do you do it?
I think if there's like an applicant or some situation like that, they can, or given like a different link, to be able to do that. I'm not sure.
If there's nothing else, our meetings were in the agenda for November and December. I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn. Need a second? All in favor? Thank you. Thanks, folks.
Say that, Melissa.